And as our guest speaker, we have Gayatri Varktak, who's a renowned sports psychologist at a very young age already. And she's also the co-founder of Samiksha. Uh, she was a national junior champion in badminton herself, and she was also a top 100 singles player before she decided to pursue psychology professionally. She is an MA in sports psychology from Pune University and an MSc in sports psychology from UK, sports and exercise in the UK. And she has also been associated with various organizations like BCCI's National Cricket Academy, Prakash Padukone Academy, Olympic Gold Quest, and the list goes on. She's been working with elite athletes for a very long time and also with chess players. So we thought to have a discussion with her today. Welcome to the show, Gayatri.
Hi, Soumya. Good morning, Vidit.
That was a great introduction, Soumya. Thank you. Hi, Gayatri.
Hi.
So, Gayatri, before we have our questions put forth, can you please tell us how sports psychology can help chess players improve themselves and their game?
Yeah, you mean before you quiz me, right? So,
before we grind you.
I'm ready, but can you give me access to share my screen so I can just quickly go over some of the stuff, and then we can move on to the questions, to the grilling session.
Akshay, can you please help us with that?
Okay. I didn't know we are going to share screen. I'll just change my settings in 1 minute.
Actually, there is an option on the
now
bottom.
I can.
Yes. Okay.
Will it tell me when to?
Just 1 second. I'll fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good to go now.
All right, guys. So thank you. First of all, thanks to Maharashtra Chess Association and the two of you to sort of do this today, and also MCA for calling me in. So I'm just going to quickly take 10 minutes of your time to explain what sports psychology for chess players really means. So here's a short story I want to narrate, right? We all know how playing chess develops mental skills. So, for example, a lot of young children or parents put children in chess classes because, chess is told to develop concentration, focus, better IQ, better problem solving skills. It also teaches them to sort of sit in one place for a while. So we all put children to playing chess at a very young age, right? But what we don't know is if we actively really develop our mind, then when we start playing competitive chess, it can really enhance your game. And a lot of these skills, right, like, handling pressure or in different parts of the game. So whether it's playing a lower rated opponent or a higher rated opponent, maybe the time pressure that you face or the pressure of playing the end game, right? All of these are skills you need to learn, and you can learn them when you train the mind. So before I begin, very quickly, let me tell you that in a short manner, you have 64 squares and 32 pieces. And there's a lot of strategy that goes beyond, just those numbers. And a lot of chess is actually the decision making that you come up to or arrive at, once you've looked at the position on the board. So basically, that's what we're going to try and talk about. Of course, not the technical aspect. Y'all can continue and I can log out if we continue to do that. But let's try and focus more on the mental aspect. So in the game of chess, there are certain important things. One is the technical aspect, like I already said. and it's more to do with positions. What are the different techniques that you use, so different lines that you see. The other is the tactical aspect. So you would solve problems, look at different lines, look at different openings, maybe strategies. Then the more important thing is the physical aspect, because you have to be seated for a long time. And the last but not the least, the mental aspect. So these four typically make up a good chess player. And we all, as chess players, you all seem to be working a lot on your technical aspect, a lot on your tactical aspect. So maybe for 6 hours a day, you're doing technical and tactical, maybe a little bit of physical. I don't know how much that is, but from my experience, it varies from anywhere between 10 or 12 minutes and can go up to hours depending on your moods, right? Yeah, guys, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
it depends
sometimes
on
it's even 0 minutes. So
I'm just optimistic with it, yeah. But and then the mental aspect, right? And as you know, like the higher the level, chess almost gets completely mental, or it is a mental game. So if it is the mental game, how many of us really actively work on our mental skills is the question to be asked. We just hope that it happens by the way. And sometimes it can. Sometimes you could be born with it. Sometimes it happens by the way. But a lot of times, if you take active, an active protocol to work on your mind and your mind skills, it can go a long way. And we'll see how. And that is what sports psychology is really about, or what we're going to talk about. What are the ways in which you train the mind? Yes. So I'm just going to quickly bust some myths. So sports psychology is for the weak is a myth that we have. I'll quickly like to put a perspective here. Like you can see my last line, I'm not a shrink. Yes, and a lot of players, chess players especially, say that to me, that we don't have a problem, so why should we go to a shrink? Actually, I'm a stretch. What do you have to say about that?
Stretch.
it's a opposite to shrink. That's the joke.
Thanks, Vidit.
But everyone who didn't get it like me, high five.
I thought it was an intelligent audience, but Vidit, you're right. You appear intelligent without your specs on. So but yeah, so what I really do is, what sports psychology is about is not fixing problems only. Nobody comes to me really depressed or having mental health problems. They all come to me for performance enhancement, learning life skills. And which is why it is for every person who is actively involved in a sport. It doesn't matter if they're elite, if they're beginners, it doesn't really matter. It's just for everybody who is into active sport and maybe competitive sport, because for me, it teaches you skills to enhance performance, but also teaches you skills to live a good life. So I just wanted to debunk some myths there. Is there any myth you think other chess players have, guys?
Like I think for chess, one of the things is like it's already a mental game, and we already know most of the things. That's what. Or also, it's different from other sports. Chess is different from other sports, and not many people will get it. You have to be a chess player to understand the psyche of a chess player. I think I've heard this, at least in my interactions.
Also, many people, like we were interacting yesterday, Gayatri, you also told me, many people think meditation is equivalent to sports psychology, but it's not. It's also working on the mind, but it's a different way to work on your mind.
Right. So I'll take those two up. I think in any, it's important to have played sport at the highest level to understand the adrenaline that you feel. It's not the same playing a World Cup or an Olympic or an Olympiad in your case, or a Commonwealth, like playing a club level or a district level tournament, right? So though every tournament is important, and that's what Swaminathan Anand always talks about, I think it's important to understand that the pressure or the skills that come are required, the mental skills that are required in different sports are maybe a lot more similar. So even though chess is a skill-based, a mental skills-based game, and there's nothing physical happening apart from you putting your hand on a piece and picking it up and then putting it on the timer. There are the same emotions that you feel. You still feel jitters when you're playing an opponent that you potentially have a threat with, or you still feel the same pressure when it comes to time, right? You playing your last game in a tournament, whether you're leading or trailing or whatever it is, it's still got an additional pressure, just like a finals of a big event in another sport. So I think playing sport is very important, but at the same time, your sports psychologist should understand the sport or the game that you are speaking about.
Exactly. Like that's one of the things. The person should understand the sport. That's very important, because every sport has their own challenges, right? Some different type of challenges.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gayatri, I wanted to ask you that many people who haven't ever visited a sports psychologist might have this question, that what will happen when they first meet you? What will it be like?
Wow, it's a valid point. So yeah, you just call me up and fix an appointment and walk in like you walk into any other place. You see me, you have a good interaction. So we discuss what your life has been thus far. What are the things that you've been doing? How have your last couple of years in sport been, outside sport been, your family? So, the first session is really about understanding you as a person and as a chess player. And they're two different things. And then I sort of explain to you what my philosophy of work is, or, what is the principles of psychology that I work on. And once we have both understood how this is going to help, or what is going to be the steps forward, then you essentially fix up a session, come and see me. We talk about different skills that are required. Sometimes there are challenges, sometimes there are skills that you need to build, and we work on each skill at a time. What according to me is very important here is when I say we work on one skill at a time, we are not sort of working on a skill and you can't see the result tomorrow, right?
It's a gradual process.
Yes, and I think it's a very gradual process. Like
it's not exactly like working on chess. I mean, it's going to be gradual.
Or even developing any muscle, kind of like it will take time, right? You have to
absolutely
work out every
day. Brain is like a muscle. You need to look at it that way. Like if you go to the gym once a month, that's how much strength you will have. So if you do mental training once a month, that's how much your mind will really be strong. So if you want it to be strong, your brain to be strong, you need to develop it every day and work on it every day. Thanks, Vidit, for picking that up already.
I understand it, but don't apply it many times. But yeah.
So hopefully now that should change.
Yeah. So Gayatri, coming to the topic today of COVID challenges and opportunities, many players, I'm sure you must have also spoken to a lot of players already, and many players are feeling a lack of motivation because they are at home and there are no tournaments to play, and there is no opportunity to earn through tournaments. That is another factor that plays on their mind, and that also leads them to not feel very motivated to work on their game. So what would you say to handle this situation? What would be your suggestion?
So motivation at this point is a common problem for a lot of you guys. Especially, you guys are the only ones who can really practice even without venturing out of homes. And even then, it seems to be a problem. I think the reasons, like you mentioned, Soumya, are a mix of everything. It's a mix of also getting used to traveling, meeting other people, practicing together, those sort of things. It's also the challenges of earnings. And I think it's also the general tone around you, which is quite negative. So, Vidit's doing a great job streaming. There's a lot of banter happening there. So I think it keeps some of them really engaged. But I think motivation, the reason why you are not motivated is two. One is there is no immediate goal that you can see in front of you. And I think, if you don't have a goal, a concrete goal in front of you, which you may have to, like, for example, there's a tournament coming up in 2 months. Okay, then you know how to pace your training to that. But right now, we don't know when the next competition is, right? So I think that if you can place your goals, fix up with people, other chess players in the community and play some tournaments, even though they don't earn you money. So it keeps you going with motivation. I think the biggest thing here is to stay connected to people. And have healthy motivation. So if, for example, I'm just taking the example here, if Soumya is working very hard and if she tells me that, it should actually motivate me to work hard. I should not feel just jealous about Soumya, because that's not going to help me work.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think having a community is very useful.
Yeah, as you said, in the first 20 days of the lockdown, I was finding it very difficult to adjust to the new routine and increased responsibilities at home, and everything basically changed. But then after speaking to a couple of my friends who were coping better than me, I was able to also form a routine for myself, and I was able to improve my focus, and now I'm able to handle it quite well. So as you said, it's very important to keep in touch with your community and take inspiration rather than feel more demotivated.
And I also think I'm actually not sure how much of it is COVID, as much as it is the lockdown. You can't get out of home, and that is what is demotivating, I think, really.
No, for me, it's actually the other way around. I'm very happy to just sit at home and not go out. Like, probably it was since COVID. I think we are back. Yeah.
Vidit, go on. You were saying how it's not about motivation.
Yeah, so I was thinking about it last night, and what I thought about motivation is that you are motivated to do, like, you don't need motivation to do things which you like, right? Like, you don't need motivation, let's say, to go on Instagram, for example. It's like you get pleasure from it, like, and it's a fun time pass. Or you go YouTube, you watch a video, for example. You don't really need motivation to do that. But there are some hard things there you have to motivate yourself, right? So if you actually like something which you want to do, then it doesn't play a big role. But there are, of course, of any job or any sport, there are some things which are like the tedious part. I think that's where the motivation makes a big role.
I think one thing that everybody can learn from you right now is how to make what is like a job fun, right? Become innovative, become creative, think about ways in which you can make the whole process of maybe solving a problem or, solving a book, for example, fun. So maybe you can have some healthy competition, try and talk to another chess player and say, okay, today we have to achieve the challenge of doing 10 problems. I'm just giving an example, right? And
yeah, for sure. I mean, I have actually made some agreements with my friends, which I used to do in school. Let's complete this chapter together. Like that, I have made some agreements. Let's complete this book together, and it makes me feel like, okay, I'm working with someone even when I'm not.
Yeah, so. And I think the most important factor for a lot of chess players is when they don't do things, the guilt that is associated with it. And I think, in especially tough and trying times, you have to be a little easy with yourself. So keep your routines flexible. Don't make it very stringent. So don't say I have to do 10 problems in the first 3 hours, right? So give yourself, say, 10 problems, but it could be done at 6 a.m., 8 a.m., 2 p.m. or 6 p.m. So that way you are more flexible with, getting the same work done. And because of the uncertain times, you might have to help your parents, or, if you're living alone, or help someone in the house, or help yourself. So there are different things that can come up, right? So in that sense, I think flexibility is the key. But very quickly before I move on, because we really haven't answered the question about what sports psychology does, I'm going to play a quick video. Let's see if everybody can watch it.
Okay.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah, I see the screen.
Yes.
Video time, yes.
Jim, a young athlete, is jumping on the trampoline. He is trying to jump as high as possible with all his might. He is also maximizing his technical skills and physical strength while doing so. Now, on the right, you can see that Jim is jumping on the trampoline, but with a harness. This harness is what helps him jump much higher than he could previously, while also ensuring that he does not fall down. Mental training is like this harness. It helps you perform to your very best while also making sure that you don't fall down. Mental training is this support that every player needs. So train your minds with us to be a champion.
Vidit must have liked only the Jim here, but
What?
I like the concept. It's a nice concept. I would like to jump on a trampoline anytime, but with the harness, it's even more fun, I guess. Yes.
Yeah. So no, so mental training really is like that harness. You know, if you have it, then you're better equipped to achieve peak performance. There's no doubt that you are doing very well, but if you want that extra edge, you know, you really need to develop your mind, because at the highest level, it's really about your mindset. You know, the way you think before a game, how you keep yourself motivated and relaxed during a long game. All of those are important things. So that's pretty much it, I think. But yeah, I'm open for questions from you guys and the audience.
Awesome.
Thank you for that lovely explanation of mental training, Gayatri. I think anyone even who had never even heard of the term would be familiar with it now, thanks to this nice video.
So is the slideshow going to continue, by the way?
No, we can shut it.
Okay. So I'll just set up the old settings. Yeah. And Soumya, you can ask the question till then.
Okay. So Gayatri, just now I got a question from Abhishek Kelkar, who is a coach and he works very closely with kids. And he said, can you share some... Okay, but I think we'll go to the audience questions later. Maybe first we'll cover our own questions.
Wow.
But I also have a similar question, so I'll just combine it.
I'm not sure that's nicely rude or what, but go ahead.
So Abhishek asks about how do kids improve their patience while playing, and I remember you had explained this concentration technique of switching on and off to me once, and I was just wondering if they are connected in any way.
No.
What is on and off technique?
Well, I'll tell you with it. Give me a minute. Let me answer Abhishek's question. I'm feeling so bad for him. So, Abhishek, thanks for the question. Firstly, I think as any child, right, is going to be patient only for a while. So we have to find different and innovative ways to help them stay patient through different activities. And when I say different activities, it may not be just sitting on the board and doing and making moves or looking at lines or discussing it. Okay, so simulating that. So I worked with this young athlete who was doing one-on-one training. She was a chess player, and what they did was they literally drew. They drew it like how we play that game of tiles. So they drew small 64 tiles on chalk, right? And she was standing as one of the pieces, and there were other pieces there. And they're all kids. They're all 10, 11, maybe 9. And then they tried to solve the problem by doing that. And they were all more involved. Soumya, is that not clear?
Yes, Soumya is like phased out completely.
Yeah,
She's
I
somewhere
don't.
else.
Yeah, I don't understand how that works. I'm just trying to. I'm like.
When I make an edit of this, it would be so funny to see Soumya looking like, completely somewhere else.
I'm just like, what is happening?
No, I'm looking at your video only, but I'm trying to understand like what exactly.
अरे मतलब वो रास्ते पे या टेरेस पे स्क्वायर्स चेस बोर्ड के स्क्वायर्स निकाले हाथ से समझ में आया हाँ like drawing like kids drawing and then she was one of the pieces that was
so they solved the problem by making an actual board.
Sure.
Okay.
Actually not an actual board but sure if that helps. Sorry we are just diverting but okay. So what I'm trying to say is they drew this on like reality, like not on a board, the actual board, on a different surface, 64 squares, and they got some people to stand as different pieces, like the other kids. Okay, and then they gave them that perspective. So they were really just solving a position, but in reality by them becoming pieces, like a role play.
Oh, okay.
And Soumya, you've not understood.
I know Soumya, and she will just pretend to say yes, but I know deep down she has not understood it.
Nothing she has understood.
I know.
She's gonna find in the evening.
I understood it. I'm just trying to understand how it develops patience. Like, how is it?
I'm saying fun and innovative ways. I'm
okay.
An example.
Okay.
Developing patience, okay? So we need to look at different ways in which they can develop this patience. One of the things to do is to give them small targets. So for example, if you think they were, so like have a patience board, okay? And like write their names on it. So unfortunately, this is a wall, but I could show you. So you write athletes or chess players names X, Y, Z. Okay, and then dates this way, and then every day to the point that they could focus or stay there, the timing, and just see how it improves, and just to sort of motivate themselves more tangibly, if that makes sense. Yeah. So that is a good way to do it with kids because they're
to make it more creative and fun. Basically, that's the point you're making. Like to go out of the box, right? To make it like interesting for yourself, something like this.
Yes. Like that is what is going to help them develop patience, and of course a lot of that will come when they continue to enjoy. So if it's very serious, it's going to be very hard.
Right. Attention span will go,
yeah. Just like we saw Soumya couldn't get it and she lost.
We have to be creative, express ourselves.
I also need to do these techniques clearly.
I can see a lot of things behind you. Maybe this is one chart that needs to go in there.
So I have one question like from Rahul Pawar. He's asking, do you think working on mental skills for people in professions which is not exactly competitive is also useful? Like let's say writing or entrepreneurship, scientific research, and like how it can be useful for other fields apart from sports? That's the question.
Okay. So I think I don't see how it has parallels to writing straight away. But there's a lot of parallels in business and entrepreneurship and research. That sports psychology has implications in these domains as well, because the skills that you require are very similar. So for example, to be able to set goals, to be able to be flexible with them, to have great communication skills, to think and make strategies, even to understand how to keep people motivated or creative.
Yeah, exactly. That's also mental training, basically.
Well, sure, but
okay. No, it isn't.
It is. So of course there is parallels, and sports psychology I can see specifically can help different domains more than clinical psychology, because clinical is more to do with what problem you have as a person and how to solve it.
Okay.
So that's why I call myself a stretch. Now you understand.
Now I got it. Of course, second time if I don't get it is too much. Like, and I had another question for you, Gayatri, about basically a lot of players face this, and you have a particular bad memory related to an opening or maybe a venue. It could be anything, or maybe a shirt, like you decide never to repeat it. And do you have what would you say to players? Because at least a shirt, you can choose not to repeat it, but to not repeat an opening is too much. Like too much is at stake. So what would you say?
Right. So it's a little bit of superstition that I don't want to get into, but I think looking at problems, in an emotional way can cause this barrier. So I have registered that memory in an emotional manner. That's why it's bad. If I remove the emotion out of it, I look at it objectively. Vidit, can you help here?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, also many times it happens like you have a good position and towards the end, let's say you make a mistake and you lose that game. So next time when you get that position, you're about to win, for example, you will have that memory, oh, I should not mess up. And so what is your advice to overcome that?
Absolutely. So, as a player, you can think like that. Like, you are in that situation now and then that flashback comes. So the one thing I would say is, like I said, remove your emotion from a memory. Try and put it down or go through it again and see how you can look at that same situation a little more objectively and work towards it. So, for example, there was a reason, I hate to say this word because I keep telling my chess players not to use it, but there was a blunder that you made at that point which costed you that bad position or the game, right? Never use this word, okay, guys? Blunder. I hate it. So now I've known that was a mistake that I made, and I want to change that mistake. So there is definitely a way to change that mistake. Now what happens is I keep thinking about how I made that mistake and why, instead of thinking about if I'm in that position again, what will I do? Right? And often writing down what you will do when you come into that position again will be really helpful, because even though with it you may, like you said, one may have a thought of, I've lost from this position in the past, you will quickly also remember, but this is the line I needed to play.
So you basically prepare yourself for the next time such situation arises and have a plan ready, like how will I react in that, rather than going into like autopilot and thinking about the previous games. Have a plan of action.
Right.
I remember a story of Anand's, actually.
Okay,
please tell me.
No, go on.
No, I remember a story of Anand's where he mentioned it in his book Mind Master, that he used to get very excited in winning positions, so he made a habit to have a cup of tea whenever to get up and have a cup of tea whenever he would get into a winning position in order to calm down. So it was just his way of overcoming this barrier, and he did it, obviously.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So I always say that the game is so long, you have to be able to focus and defocus. So I'll explain that in just a bit, but I'll first explain the reason why. So all of us know that the game is long, and specifically in chess, there's something called as an active phase and a passive phase. An active phase is when your time really starts to make a move, and the passive phase, the active phase ends and the passive phase begins when you've made your move and pushed the time.
Basically, when your opponent is thinking, you're like more relaxed and stuff like that.
Yes. Now, this passive phase is what I would like to look at as a good thing, because it helps you re-strategize.
Yeah, relax a bit.
Yeah. And also take your time out and kind of defocus or switch off. Unfortunately, in my experience, this passive phase is what has become the biggest problem for a lot of chess players. Because like Vidit said in the past, one may think about, oh, now what if I lose from here? Or I've messed up this position in the past. Or there are lots of thoughts filled with doubt or errors or past experiences that come into that passive phase.
Even in active phase, I think it comes. When you're making your move, I think you're still back of the mind sometimes thinking of this stuff.
Yes, but more so in a passive phase because, you still have more time to think about it or dwell on it really. And you can get very quickly lost in your spirals, which is when you also tend to forget some of your lines or what you were thinking, and then you have to do it all over again, which also means that you lose more time, right? So it's very important to actively use your passive phase. Soumya has not understood, but
No, I understood.
oh, great.
It's like a ragging session of Soumya, but it's okay.
No, not meant to be. Sorry. Let's target with it.
I'm mentally strong, so because I worked on my mental health. So.
It's a test. It's a test.
It's a test.
So what I think is that how do you actively work on your passive phase? The answer is switch on and switch off, right?
Okay.
And some of the techniques for that is when you are playing, like when you are in your active phase, you think as a player. But when you are in your passive phase, you think as a third person. So you think as a spectator watching the game on the board. That's one way to do it.
Like,
right?
You kind of detach yourself to that helps in removing emotion, like not completely until you have mastered it.
You become more objective of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Detach is exactly what it means. But just to make it simple for ordinary mortals like us, I thought I just use the word spectator, right? Yeah. Secondly, I think what really helps is breathing. Breathing is one single thing that can be very, very useful because it has tremendous benefits. So from being able to make you stay in the present, to keep you calm, to make sure that you don't overthink, to help you relax, there's a plethora of benefits that breathing brings in. And then, by the way, to answer your question on meditation, Soumya, meditation or breathing techniques is a part of sports psychology. It is not sports psychology by itself. Okay. And the reason why that happens is that meditation, for example, is a tool that is most often practiced off your board or off the playing arena. Whereas, sports psychology helps you apply it to the setting that you are in everyday life. Okay. So it's a useful trick. And there are many others in sports psychology, but breathing is really helpful in that sense. So I've hopefully answered that question. So yeah, to switch on and off, you can either go into a spectator mode or you can do breathing. And another way is, especially in the classical format, when you have to be there for really long, try and eat, drink often. It's very important to replenish your reserves of energy through those 4 hours on an average that you play. The one thing that I think chess players don't understand, and I'm sorry to say this, is they feel that they've trained for 8 hours, so they're just able to sit in there and do that because they're not doing anything physical. But I think the drain of the reserves that has happening because of the mental calculations at all times is equally or more important, and which is why your energy is really getting drained. So eat, and that is where also breathing helps. If you keep breathing well, if you ensure that your lungs are emptied completely and you breathe in completely, then there's better oxygen supply, your bloodstream is better. You're obviously feeling a little more fresh because there's no oxygen in your body.
Yeah, completely, totally agree. Actually, many kids, they don't eat or even drink water during the game because they don't want to waste time using the washroom. But I think, this is a very common thing amongst kids, but I think it doesn't serve any purpose because you're feeling so tired by the end of the 4th hour that you're bound to make a blunder. So it's better to, spend those 2-3 minutes going to the washroom and eat something, drink something during the game so that you have enough energy until the end of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have also a different perspective on this, right? And you maybe like a question for you guys. When you started playing chess, did you think more of the long term, or were you just worried about the under 9s and the under 11s?
I was
And
worried
that,
about that day. I mean, I wanted to
Yeah.
win that day and get a good night's sleep.
Yeah, for me also it was quite short term for that moment, but I had some long term goals also. Like I was very like I don't know. I think you feel every game is important. No, you can't just like be
Yeah.
like,
Chess is
kal
too
acha
personal. Like,
khelenge.
I think in chess, when you
Yeah,
lose, it feels very personal. And
yeah.
actually,
yeah,
that brings me to
In
one
everything, when
question.
you lose, you feel personal. It doesn't matter whether it's on the board or off the board.
Yeah,
Even
but
if
I
it's
think
not,
in chess somehow I don't know. Like, okay, probably because it's my profession. Maybe it could be like this. I don't
no,
know.
also with it, the thing is in chess, you can lose a winning game very easily. And that hurts like anything because you have made
Why?
so much
Why
effort.
very easily?
Because just one mistake and it's gone. Whereas in other sports, like in football, if you have a very big lead, you won't, even if you concede 1 or 2 goals, you won't lose the game. Whereas in chess, if you are completely winning and you give up a rook, that's it. Go, gaya
No,
game.
I
I
think
disagree.
yeah, I think in every sport it's okay. It has different
No,
things, but
I
I don't
feel
think it only applies for chess.
I feel it's quite different in chess compared to other sports. One mistake
See,
can cost you much more.
I think the reason why this typically happens, like you gave Anand's example of, how he would take that tea break, right? The reason why this happens is because we quickly move on from the present to the future, thinking about, winning that game and then what is going to happen. And, your thoughts start to go beyond the present, right? So which is when there is a problem and you make a mistake. Okay, so I think, and that is true for any game.
Yeah,
You could make a
like that
mistake.
happens. Yeah.
Okay, so I got some questions. Do we like have time to take them?
Maybe one. I don't
Okay.
know. Soumya?
So
Yeah, sure. We can take. We can take.
like when you're too critical or going through a bad circumstance, any loss feels too personal, and the need to win just like drains you out. How to be secure in your abilities and like get away from the losses. How to dissociate away from the losses, kind of, because losing a game kind of that it kind of like tangent to what we're thinking of.
Yeah. So I think firstly, what is important to see is that whether you win a game or you lose a game, there's obviously an emotional analysis, but there also has to be a very objective analysis. So if the same game, you were not involved in this game, for example, and someone else was playing this game and you were observing, what would your suggestion be to that person?
Right.
Clear? So there are two perspectives to analyzing a game. And I think the spectator perspective or the third person's perspective is far more important than your own personal perspective. And it is about really training yourself to understand this. It's very hard, but that's one of the most powerful ways to overcome losses.
I guess even in other fields you can see its application. Like even if you're looking at something from a third person's perspective or detaching yourself, you're more objective because your emotions are more in control, right? It's not easy to do it, but like I understand it, but it's not easy to do it.
No, of course, I think, it's a lot of practice, and which is why we say that you should start doing mental training very early. I know for a fact that the benefits of starting mental training very early go a long, long way. And, there's a little less of the unlearning and new learning to do when you have done it very young. Soumya, I don't know if you can give an example of this, but especially when it comes to your approaches of learning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I remember this amazing example you had given me of I think Becker and of a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
McEnroe.
It was
Yeah.
Jan McEnroe. Okay, yes. So yeah, that was an amazing memory that has stayed with me, and it changed my mindset. It helped me change my mindset from okay, I'm not good at this to okay, I can learn this.
I think there's
So
also a
can
book
you
written on
speak
it,
about
right?
that a little bit?
Yes,
Like
by
a
Carol
growth mindset. I think it's a very famous book, right?
Yeah, by Carol Dweck.
Carol Dweck, yes.
Yes. So very quickly, I'll just narrate the story. I think at that time it was more about fixed mindset is more about feeling entitled and superior, and knowing that whatever happens is directly related to me as a person. So for example, if I don't do well in maths, or I fail in an exam, then I become a failure, as opposed to I am not able to do this maths problem and I can work on it. Right? I just assume that for the rest of my life I can't do maths. And I think that's a lot to do with your environment also. But that's one of the mindsets that you form. So in this case, McEnroe, for example, I think in the 79 mixed doubles at Wimbledon, played mixed doubles, and they lost in straight sets, he and his partner. And what happened is, straight after the match, McEnroe said, I am never going to play doubles again. And believe me, for 20 years, he didn't play mixed doubles again.
Really?
And when they asked him why, he said that, of course, I lost the match and I hate the idea of losing. But secondly, he said that in the entire match, only I lost my serve 2 times. And, nobody else did, which on court made him feel like he was maybe the others were more, so he was inferior than the 3 other people on court, and he couldn't deal with it. So he said it's not worth it, and he refused to play. Whereas a similar example of Michael Jordan is when he got thrown out and cut out from his varsity team, he actually went back home and sat down dejected, and his mom told him that there's no way out, and you need to discipline yourself and get back on court and start working hard. And he looked at that incident more as something that he can build on, as opposed to something that is fixed, and that was not the end of the story for him, right?
Exactly.
So I think even with learning, or if you want to become a better and a better player, it's very important for you to think about it as a process and not take everything so personally, because it can become a big obstacle, not just in sport, but in life too.
I think also Michael Jordan's, I saw his documentary recently. Last Dance, and it shows like he was mentally super tough, no?
Absolutely, like some really insightful events, situations that he walks you through. I think it's a must watch for many people. But yeah, he also did a lot of work on his mind training. Someone like Roger Federer, for example, all of us know who Roger Federer is. But Roger Federer at 18 was not the same Roger Federer you see today. He was much more flashy. He would throw his racket, put anger tantrums on court, give away matches, and so on and so forth. And then he actually underwent a lot of work with his sports psychologist. And his coach believes that was a catalyst for him to grow. And, there is also a small video of him online where he talks about how he looked at the long term, and he saw how making those changes will help him in having a long-lasting career.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Soumya.
Okay. I thought I lost my connection.
Like, we have many questions. Like, also one of the questions is asked, like, can we use tech in mental training? Is it like there are these heart rate sensors and all this stuff? Is it possible to use that in some way for mental training?
Yes, it's called biofeedback. And,
biofeedback. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it can definitely be used in mental training, but that is more for you to understand what is happening. So more awareness-based than training-based.
Yes.
You still have to undergo training for you to be able to manage it effectively and make sense of that, right?
Right.
Like a layman is not going to be able to look at your like cardiac output or your pupil dilation and say, okay, this is what is happening. No, you need some expert who is doing this.
Okay, so we can't, like, as a professional, can't really use it. We need an expert to do it. Something.
I mean, you will have to learn how to use it.
Okay.
I'm not saying you can't, but you need to learn.
Right. But is there, like, can you give an example how we can use it? Like, how it is, like, let's say a heart rate sensor, can we use it, or what are the ways? Because I'm very curious now. Like, because it gives you measure, like, it's very hard to, like, physical, you can see like your muscles are building, but in mental training, it's not so easy to, like, track your progress sometimes. So, like,
which is why biofeedback is so useful. What it does is it tells you how to So for example, to give you a very simple example, when you are focused, right?
Yeah.
The way your pupils of the eye are, okay, there's a certain manner in which they can stay. And when you start to get tired, there is a change in those, right? So you see that when does that point of change come? And then you learn techniques so that that point of change is
Right.
sort of, you have more longevity with it. And then when you try it, then you can see the longevity and you start to believe in it, right? So for me, though it's very useful, I think it's a lot to do with your belief and faith into something. I mean, for a lot of players that I've worked with, I think when they understand themselves better, they obviously have more belief in their mental training. They don't really need to see it tangibly all the time. It's a very newcomer sort of approach, or very I want it quickly sort of an approach.
Now we live in instant gratification world, right? That's all. So, but it makes sense because I was reading this book, Thinking Fast and Slow, and it has the system 1, system 2, and they made studies like when you're using your system 2, which is like analytical part of your brain, your pupils dilate, and they were
Yes.
observing it, something like. But for us to do it personally, it takes a lot of effort, right? Makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, already there's so much you're doing by yourself. I think as a chess player, it's very important to have a good support system. You'll do everything, you will go crazy. I think. It's important to understand the power of delegation and the power of a team,
Right.
though you'll play an individual sport. Because with a team, you leave the expertise to someone else and you believe that they can give you that expertise.
Right.
And that can contribute massively to your mental health as well.
Yes. And
Why are you giggling?
I'm just giggling because we just discussed about this pupils, and I see Soumya's eyes like moving around. She's probably looking at something
No.
else. So that's why I was like,
She is
sorry.
worried that we're not giving her a chance to speak and she has to end the session.
Soumya, please go ahead. Please speak. You're on mute, Soumya.
Reading if there are any questions from the audience. I was just checking. So I think we can close now because I'm not sure if we can take all the questions. But we covered quite a lot already.
Maybe
And
part 2, and maybe since Vidit is doing so much research on mental training, I can moderate the session.
and he can give the session.
वाह
Okay.
मतलब मेरी उड़ाने लग गए अभी मेरी रैगिंग शुरू
And we can sit back and have a good laugh and grill him a little more.
But
It's very working hard on his mental training.
It's
so.
very easy to preach, but practice is tough. That's the point, right? I can't do that like all the time. But I know stuff, but applying that is the skill actually.
Right.
I think you're applying well whatever you know.
Definitely while you're streaming with it, like.
Is my observation. Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful to have this discussion, Gayatri and Vidit. I actually found out many things and I can apply them. I hope everyone liked our session. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope you could take away something useful from it and can apply it, and will now give perhaps more attention to mental training. That itself will make this screening a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Soumya. Thank you, Gayatri.
Thanks, Soumya.
Thank you, Gayatri, for joining us and giving us your valuable time. We really appreciate it.
And not thanking me for ragging you, are you? But that was with it.
But I think I should give context because you guys were friends before, right? Like.
Yeah, we are friends.
So that's why. I mean, it could be misunderstood. You guys are friends for a long time, so.
We live next to each other for people who are watching.
Yeah, for 15 years now. Which is, though Soumya is never at home, I must say. So.
No, we are digressing. Where is Soumya?
No, this is not for chess association. This is on a personal Instagram channel for you. We'll do it in another time.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye Vidit. Thank you so much. Bye. Okay. Just
1 second, guys. I'll just put on my video capture. Okay, now I'm back. I'll just increase the size of it. Okay, got it. So guys, I think it was a very different session than usual. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and it brought some value. I tried to take as many questions as I could. As you know, it was streamed on different platforms, so there were questions on the other platforms as well. But at least if you learn one thing, like I think they say, if you read a book and if you get even like one thing you learn from it, and if it's useful to you, that it's worth buying the entire book, kind of. So I just have the same feeling today. If you learned like one thing which you can apply today in your life, it helped you, then it's completely worth it. So yes guys, so I'll be back with streaming in the evening. So thank you, bye bye everyone. I'll just see if I missed something. Okay, thank you Dishant, Sushil, Apit, Priyam, yeah, Abhishek. I think Abhishek, I asked your questions in a different way, but I did. Ashwin, yes, I was also very curious about this technical stuff, and I didn't get like a clear thing how I can use it, but it's clearly possible that it can be used, right? And Ayushi, yes, your question was very interesting. Probably the answer or that takeaway for me was to be detached from it, and it's very tough practically to do that, but it's a long term process, right? If we can do it, it will be great. And I'll personally be trying to look at everything from a third person's perspective, so that my emotions don't come in between. I think that's one thing which we all can apply in our daily lives. So yeah, I mean, that's my takeaway. Trying to be more detached. We all know this, but it's very hard to apply that in our life. So yes, that's one thing which I'm trying to do now for like 1 week or something at least, so that it gets ingrained in me. I'll do the chess stream separately. It doesn't make sense for me to do chess now, but I'll do a separate stream later on. So thank you guys, everyone. Thank you chat, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye bye guys, bye bye. And it was so early in the morning, that too. Thanks for coming in. Bye bye.